So today is Christmas, and I hope everyone out there has had a Merry Christmas today. I have a little something that I'm giving away for everybody as my own Christmas gift. This is something I've worked on over the course of a week a while back this month. Essentially, it's a maintenance and rescue CD that I put together using elements from a Windows operating system in different kinds of portable applications. And what it'll let you do is perform maintenance on your computer. You can use it for rescue purposes if your computer will not boot properly, or you're having problems with Windows and you want to get your files off of it so you can do a recovery, and a couple of other things. And so essentially, again, maintenance and rescue. And here it is, loaded up into my OneDrive available for download. Look at the requirements, and the requirements are actually pretty simple. That was also the goal of the project. The minimum system requirements is 2 gigabytes of memory and at least a single core CPU. Obviously, most people are going to have dual core CPUs and 2 gigabytes of memory at the minimum nowadays for most modern computers. There is some capabilities in there like internet access, so if you have a supported Wi-Fi card or a network interface card if you're using Ethernet, you can do internet and file transfer protocol within the recovery system. And if you're burning this to a CD, which is a CDR in this case, that was the goal. I didn't want it to be on a big DVD disc. I want it to be on an inexpensive CD. So you can burn it to a CDR or even an RW if you want to use a rewritable. Or if you have a computer without a optical drive, or you just want to put it on a flash drive, you'll need at least a 1 gig USB flash drive. And you can use something like ISO to USB, that the Windows 7 ISO to USB tool and things like that can take that ISO file and copy it to a flash drive for you. So you've got some flexibility whether you want to use optical media or flash media. And again, it's simple to get. You download the file, you burn it to the CD or use a USB tool, and that's all you got to do. So there's this out, and you can get a couple of screenshots here that we look at, but we're going to go one extra. And I'm going to load it up in VMware so you can actually see it in action. So start up VMware Player here, and it'll boot directly from the ISO file as if it was actually on a CD. Let VMware start up, and you'll get this little bootloader. Don't really have to do anything, you can just let it start up automatically. It'll load all the files. You'll get Windows booting up here. And again, what it's doing is it's taking the files from either your flash drive or CD-ROM and it loads them into a subset of memory. So everything is running independent of the hard drive and other components of the system, and that's what makes it useful for doing maintenance and recovery, because it's acting independent of the main hard drive and other components of the computer. All it is just using the elements of the CD or flash drive itself and whatever it loads into memory. So here we are, we're loaded into the recovery environment. It shows administrator because we get administrative access. It's loading up the Windows environment. So let it load up here. And if you can hear, the recovery environment does support playing back sound. You probably heard the startup sound there. I had a couple of options, and it was automatically loading up network drivers, sound drivers, display drivers, things like that. So here we are at the main screen, and it doesn't automatically start up the portableapps.com platform on it. That's why there's instructions on the desktop. But it's simple to follow. You open up Explorer, which is on your desktop here. And when you open up Explorer, you can see the RAM disk that's put on there in the boot RAM, and then of course our system itself. And we're looking for portableapps.com. We double click that and double click the start. And we may get some error messages like this. Again, if we're running on a CD, if you're on a flash drive, you're not going to see that. Because CD-ROM media, after you burn it, you can't write to it. Unlike a flash drive, so you'll get those errors. Here we got all kinds of portable applications that we can use. Again, we have FileZilla for doing file transfer protocols. So if you got somewhere that you can FTP your files to, if you want to pull them off your computer, because you can't get to them in the normal Windows system or you need to do a recovery, you can FTP as long as, again, you got a supported Wi-Fi card or NIC. If you got a Wi-Fi card, you'll have to log into your wireless network. It'll, of course, give you the options as if it was actual Windows 8.1 or whatever asking you. For Windows, we got PuTTY for Telnet. Other stuff we even have our Info Recorder, which is a CD burning application, so you can burn files to optical media. Now, of course, if you're using this on optical media and you've only got one optical drive, obviously you can't use it unless you connect up an external writer or if your computer's got more than one optical drive in it. And we got a PDF reader, so we can read PDF files. We have a couple of security applications here, such as Recuva for recovering files that may have been deleted that you want to try to recover. And we got TrueCrypt for encryption purposes, for encrypting files. File Assassin, which is designed for deleting protected files that kind of require certain access privileges that you can't normally do. KeePass is a password storage service. WipeDisk is for wiping the hard drive, so it cleans the hard drive's free space from anybody trying to recover files. It's just very useful if you're recovering the computer and you don't want someone to try to recover files, say, after you sell the computer or give it away to somebody. You can use that, and they won't be able to recover any of your previous files that you had on it. That's what's lurking in the free space. Utility-wise, we have things like the 7-zip, which is a compression tool for doing zip, 7z, RAR, and other types of compressed file formats. Blue Screen View is a utility for looking at the logs generated when you have a blue screen error. So if you get one of those blue screens that's not letting you boot Windows, you can load this up, find its log file, open it in Blue Screen View, and then you can get the details out of that log file in a nice to read format. Lets you see precisely what is causing the problem. Checkmon is basically for checking the monitor and the display. It lets you display different kinds of colors, graphics, things like that to see if your monitor and display and your graphics card are working properly. And we got some stuff here like CPU ID hardware monitor. Again, it's for monitoring things like the temperature, fan speed, things like that of the components internal on your computer. CPU-Z, most people are probably familiar with it. It's a program designed for displaying all the information about the processor that's installed on your computer, such as the clock speed, the voltages, the bus speed, things like that relevant to the processor. Other ones that people are familiar with probably is Crystal Disk Info and Crystal Disk Mark. Crystal Disk Info is designed for showing off information about the drives that are installed on your computer. Of course, that includes things like the sizes of the drives, the number of sectors, etc., things like that. Crystal Disk Mark is a benchmarking tool for drives, so you can see what your read and write speeds and other things like that for a drive is. You can use that. Crystal Mark is an overall benchmark program, so if you want to get like a general benchmark of your computer, you can kind of use that for it. Task Manager is basically like the Task Manager in Windows because the recovery environment does not have the normal Windows Task Manager. So that is on here to act as a task manager. It'll let you see the current memory and CPU usage of what's going on while you're in the recovery unit. So it's useful if you're loading up a lot of these applications because, again, you do have some of your memory being used for running the recovery environment. So you want to make sure you don't exceed that because you could, of course, crash the recovery environment. Dupe Killer is basically a duplicate file finder. It helps you find duplicate files you want to get rid of. GPU-Z is an information tool for your graphics card. So again, if you got something like NVIDIA or ATI, AMD cards, you can look at all the information about the graphics card on your system using that program. Hardware info is similar to the CPU ID hardware monitor, but again, this provides more information overall for all the hardware that's on the computer. Heavy Load is kind of a stress test program, primarily meant for the CPU, memory, and hard drives. So if you want to stress test your computer without using the whole Windows operating system, again, you can load this up, load up Heavy Load, and then you can stress test your system that way without any risk to your normal Windows operating system, or with the limitations that Windows may have, because again, this is running independent of that. HXD is a hex editor for those that are familiar with hex editing and need it for certain purposes. JK-defrag is a defragmentation program. So again, you can use this CD for maintenance to do things like defragmentation. Those familiar with TeamViewer will know that it's a remote control application. So if someone has an issue with their computer and they want someone else to try and look at it and actually work with the computer from a remote location to try to solve the problem, they can use TeamViewer. And again, the useful thing with this disk is if you have Wi-Fi or Ethernet connected to it, you can still use TeamViewer and send someone a request that has the TeamViewer application, and they can actually take control of your computer through the recovery environment and be able to go into your files, run some of the programs on here, see if something is wrong, and they can fix it remotely for you. So it's a pretty useful application to have. The last one on here is the Windows Error Lookup tool. If you get some kind of Windows error and it tells you what the ID of the error is or what it is or something like that, and you write it down or remember what it is, you can look it up on the Windows Error Lookup tool and it'll give you information about that specific Windows error. So that's all the portable applications that are supplied on the CD. Now you've normally got things like here, Internet Explorer. So I can launch up Internet Explorer, I can browse the web. See, I brought up the Google page. It says it's Christmas Day. They got the Christmas Day thing on there. So I can do internet browsing, I can get to an email system, I can get to an online storage client. Again, if I want to try to save my files somewhere or maybe look up something. And again, you can get into Explorer and you can go into your files. Since this is a virtual machine, I haven't assigned a hard drive to it, so we're just seeing all the CD stuff on here. But normally your partitions and hard drives on your computer would be visible here. And it also supports plugging in flash drives and external drives, so you don't have to reload the recovery environment if you plug in a drive or something like that. It'll automatically pop up here. You can transfer your files to your drives just like you were doing it normally in Windows. A couple of other things here for dial-up and using the command prompt. And again, for the advanced users out there, it does have the advanced applications like the disk part utility. So I can load up disk part and do advanced disk partitioning applications. In case I don't need to do that right now, so I'm not going to. But you do have the command prompt for advanced users that need to use command line utilities. And you can go into your start menu, have some of your typical apps. You can get into things like the control panel, do run commands. Got a couple of other things here in the system tools. You can actually launch the system recovery environment, which is basically the same menu that you would get if you tried to do a recovery in Windows. Say you couldn't get to the recovery menu in your normal Windows system because, again, it won't boot or something like that, but you know that your recovery partition and everything on the computer is intact. You can use this CD and access the system recovery through that and be able to recover your system. You got a couple of useful things. Again, you got DirectX diagnostics you can use. A couple of other things here that are relevant to the recovery CD itself, like the virtual drive management. Not really necessary when you're trying to work on system things. You got computer management, like as well, which is used for partitioning and looking at drives. You got these are all administrative utilities that you would normally find in Windows. Plus, we've got the normal array of things like Notepad, Microsoft Paint, snipping tools, calculator, things like the normal accessories you would find in Windows. And again, as I say, you click the system recovery, and what it will do is you choose your keyboard layout, and then it'll give you your selection options, like you can troubleshoot your computer, things like that. And of course, this is relevant to Windows 8 itself, so you can use this to recover your computer, provided your recovery is intact. So that's essentially how the recovery CD works. And again, it fits all on a CDR disk or a flash drive, and it's ready to go whenever you need it. So again, this is available in my OneDrive. There will be a link for it in the description. This download is also available through my Facebook page. You can find the link that goes to the